Greetings to all my fellow watch enthusiasts on YouTube and Facebook and wherever else this video is being seen and shared. It's Celine Driver once again, coming to you with a follow-up to a video I recently released where I did a comparison between the Zelos Hammerhead, the Hammerhead 2, in this case the Chronograph Hammerhead 2, and the Abyss 3 in terms of size and wearability and features and so on, style, that kind of thing. And I want to do a follow-up, combining two follow-ups into one, because those are not the only dive watches that Zelos made. They also made the Mako, the Swordfish, and the underrated, in my opinion, Great White. Those are three other dive watches that they produced, and I have examples of each in my collection. And I will also put on the table in the upper row here a first generation Hammerhead, second generation Hammerhead, and the Abyss. But ignore those for the moment. We'll get to them a little later in the video. The main focus of this video is to compare the three other entries in the dive watch genre for Zelos. You can think of them as, more entry level than the Hammerhead and the Hammerhead 2 and the Abyss, because as you go up in size and so on, you also go up in price. So let's take a look at the three that are the main focus of this video, and then we'll circle back around to these guys up here as well. First of all, I have the Mako. Now, this is a Mako version 3 Frost. There are two other versions I do have in my collection, if you refer back to other videos I've made. I do have two Generation 1 Makos, pardon me, and my father happens to have also a Generation 2 and 3 Mako. So I have seen and played with all three generations of Mako. They're all pretty much basically the same size. So for the purposes of this video, the Mako Frost here, version 3, will be a stand-in for all three generations. This is the smallest dive watch that Zelos makes. And it is, quote-unquote, the entry-level dive watch in the pantheon of Zelos watches. This is as I said, the Frost version. This is the full lume dial. So when the lights go out, this whole dial lights up, and very bright. You can see a screenshot of this in the video that I made of this watch, and also on the Zelos website. It's a 40 millimeter case, 20 millimeter lug, 46 millimeters on the tip to tip, and 14 millimeters thick with including the slightly domed crystal. It is a 300 meter diver, and considering its level of construction and so forth, I don't doubt that this is a true 300 meter diver. It has a 120 click bezel with a sapphire insert. Ceramic insert, sorry, not sapphire. Sapphire crystal, but ceramic bezel insert. It's powered by the Miyota 9015 automatic movement. So it is a windable movement. It has the date window down here at the 6 o'clock. It is hand wind. It is hackable. As you can see, the movement is hackable. And the case and bracelet are 316L stainless. So, good solid overall watch. Stepping up a little bigger is the beloved Swordfish. This is a version 1 Swordfish. You can tell that it's a version 1 because it has the more boxy first generation style clasp with the built-in ratcheting Dyer's extension, which also acts as your micro adjuster if you wanted to. This is the Aquamarine, which I absolutely love this colorway. Most of the Swordfish came with ceramic inserts. However, this one is I believe, loomed steel insert. 120 click bezel. Thing I like about it is the bezel is very subtle in terms of coloring and doesn't detract from the aquamarine of the dial. Look at that sunburst. That is gorgeous. Anyway, for the purposes of this video, the Swordfish version 1 and 2 are basically the same. They are all 42 millimeter cases, so we've stepped up from the 40 of the Mako to the 42 of the Swordfish. It is a 22 millimeter lug instead of 20. It's 48 on the tip to tip, so a little bigger, about 2 millimeters bigger than the Mako. And believe it or not, because this is a flat crystal, it's a little thinner, at least according to Elshin's website. This is a 13 millimeters thick. And well, with the crystal, you can see that the Mako is in fact just a tad thicker because of the dome on this one versus the flat on this one. Case to case, I would say they're about the same thickness. Maybe the Swordfish is a little thicker on the case. 300 meter water resistance, I believe. I think it says that right there, doesn't it? Good Lord, my eyesight is bad. Well, focus. Yeah, all right, whatever. Sapphire crystal, just like the Mako. 120 click bezel, just like the Mako. This one uses Seiko movement. This is an NH35. Now, there were two movements on these watches. You could opt for the ETA movement. I think it was a 28-24 with a date window. I opted for the no date NH35. Although there is the ghost, you can see the movement is hackable. But if you go to the first click, there's a ghost date wheel. You know, you can go to one click, but it does nothing, owing to the nature of the NH35. And again, 316L stainless on the case and the bracelet. And finally, we have the Great White. As I said, I think this is a underappreciated Zelos watch. There were multiple colorways. This one happens to be the gray dial with the teal. I guess that's teal. Yeah, I'll call it teal. Chapter ring. This one is beginning to get up into the size of the Hammerhead. This is a 44 millimeter case. 22 millimeter lug. 50 millimeter on the tip to tip. And 16.5 millimeters thick. So definitely a thicker watch than the Swordfish. This is a 1,000 meter diver, so very similar, well, exactly the same depth rating as the Hammerhead and the Hammerhead 2. Flat sapphire crystal. I believe the Hammerhead 1 is a domed crystal. So there's a difference between the two 2,000-meter divers, is the domed crystal on the Hammerhead. 120 click bezel. Very nice bezel action. And the insert is ceramic, loomed ceramic. This one uses, again, a completely different movement from the other two. This is a Sellita SW200, basically an ETA. And again, 316L stainless steel on the case and the bracelet. And you get the first gen style boxy full loomed clasp with the ratcheting diver extension / micro adjuster. Pardon me, I have the runny nose owing to where I live. It's pollen season. So April is pollen season here, but other parts of the country are probably still a little too cold for that. So you can definitely see the progression of divers sizes. I mean, this one, oh, by the way, wristwatch check. I'm wearing my famous ZX Spitfire 1 of 1 custom with the it's basically a full ZX watch. The watch face is metal taken from a World War II Spitfire fighter plane that Elshin had made for himself and allowed me to purchase from him. He reworked it a little bit to make it, fresher, and I just love the watch. Big fan of the ZX line. I have 4 of them now, and I'd like to get maybe a 5th. I regret selling my ZX3, I'll tell you that much. I should have kept that, but somebody else is happy with it. Anyway, looking again, as I said, like for like in a way, looking at the 2,000-meter divers, the first generation Hammerhead is an older design compared to the Great White. They are similar in terms of construction. Definitely different case types. This one is obviously faceted, whereas this one is very rounded. One thing I do compare it to, or you can compare it to, is Mako versus Great White. These two came out at about the same time. I believe the Mako in version 1 came out before the Great White. So you can see, even in the version 3, there is a familial lineage between the Mako and the Great White. Other than the fact they're both named after very ferocious sharks. You can see there's definitely a lineage between the two. The style of the bezel is very much, the bezel printing is very much the same. The style of the watch faces with the triangular indices is very much the same. I don't think there were any Great Whites offered with a date window, though, so that is a difference. But the case style is very similar. So you can see there is a definite similarity. Whereas if you're looking for similarities from family to family, you can take a Swordfish and you can take an Abyss. Now this is the Abyss 3, which looks quite a bit different from the other Abyss models before it, but you can definitely see a lineage between the Swordfish, which is an older design, and the Abyss 3. And you can also see that same lineage between the Hammerhead V1, which is an older design than the Swordfish. You can see that lineage, although of course you're talking about applied indices here and more of a sandwich dial here. And in the Generation 2 Hammerhead, There's still some lineage to it. I mean, obviously this is a chronograph, and I don't have access right now to a Gen 2 non-chronograph hammerhead, but you can definitely still see the lineage, especially things like the crown and the overall size and so forth, and the way the indices are laid out. So definitely you can see where Elshin was going with two distinct design lineages. I mean, the Mako and the Great White are one family with more of the rounded indices and the more dive friendly loomed bezel and so forth, a little bit more traditional dive bezel type with the way the numbering is laid out and so forth. And then you can definitely see the lineage in these four up here with the way they're laid out with respect to indices and the way their bezels are laid out and enumerated and so forth. So definitely Elshin was going for two distinct looks here across, I guess, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different, because these are connected. Two distinct looks across 5 different families of dive watch. Definitely you could say that Zelos is making something for everybody. I mean, you've got monsters like the Abyss, which if you have anything under a 7-inch wrist, you can forget it. Even with the short overhang of the lugs, the thickness of this watch is going to preclude, I don't know, maybe 6 3/4, but you're pushing it at that point. Whereas, say, a Swordfish from the same lineage could be worn by folks with smaller wrists, maybe down to 6.5, very comfortably, owing to the short overhang of those lugs. And then you've got like a 40 millimeter diver at, that with a 300 meter dive rating that anybody could wear. I mean, I even, just before I made this video, my younger daughter came downstairs and was looking for something, and I had her throw this on the wrist real quick. I don't know what her wrist size is, but she accommodated. I mean, the lugs were right on the edge of the top of her wrist, but she's 5'5", not a overly large girl, and she accommodated this 40 millimeter very nicely. So definitely a watch that anybody could wear if they want a diver. So, as I said, something for everybody in this group. And that's where I'm going to wrap it up. I just wanted to do a follow-up comparison to the other 3 dive watch families that Elshin and Zelos has produced that I didn't review on the first one. I mainly concentrated on, as I call them, the big boys, the Hammerhead 2, and the Abyss. But there are 3 other groupings. I mean, one of them definitely could qualify as a big boy in and of itself, but these other 3 families are definitely ones worth considering if you're you're looking into a dive watch from Zelos, and you're not liking the Hammerheads or you're not liking the Abyss. There are definitely other choices you should be aware of. So hopefully you enjoyed this presentation and found it useful. If you did, I'd appreciate a thumbs up, please. Liking the video and giving me a thumbs up does help with the algorithms that are used by YouTube. Makes my channel more searchable when people go searching for Zelos watches or dive watches. My channel, the more likes I get, the more likely it is to pop up. If you have comments, questions, or suggestions, put them down below there. I read them all. I respond to them all. I will delete you and block you if you go negative on me. It's just a policy I have. It's nothing personal. If you're new to my channel or you've been here before and you haven't already done so, please click the red subscribe button And when you do, click the bell icon next to it so that when I upload new content, you are alerted. I try and post videos at least once a week. Trying to do more now because of what's going on out there in the world. We're all stuck in our homes. We're all bored out of our skulls. I can't mention why, because YouTube is striking channels that do that. But if you Google April 2020 in the future, if you're looking at this in the future, you Google April 2020 and what's going on, you'll figure it out real quick. I thank you for stopping by. I appreciate anyone who does, subscriber or not. I appreciate everyone who stops by and watches my videos and comments, or even just stops by. Everybody stay safe, stay well. I'll see you in my next video.